it does occasionally drive me crazy when I go back to my earlier books and I see, you know, mistakes and things that could have been better and things I could have done so much more with if I'd known that at the time, but I didn't.
And you never touch them and you never redo them, would you?
Oh God, no.
No.
Oh God, that's too much work. I'm lazy.
I'm going to try to just kind of go over from here. Right here. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You mentioned Dungeons and Dragons. What were your favorite characters you played? What favorite storyline? That sort of thing.
I rarely get to play D&D. Mostly I'm the GM. And when I do play, I get bored with characters every 2 weeks and switch them, you know, so I'm that guy. But playing DM, let's see, right now I'm running a game in 5th edition, but I'm running the Birthright campaign setting. And my party is ridiculous. It's an evil party. There's like an eco-terrorist druid, there's a berserk halfling necromancer, who's got an unnatural obsession with hands, and then sort of in the middle there's like this neutral good sorceress trying to keep the party on track, and just failing, and just, you can just see her alignment going lawful good, neutral good, neutral, you know, it's just sliding down the hill. So I'm having fun with that. And then the other campaign I've done recently was I realized my kid had gotten to be 22 years old without ever playing actual D&D. Like, we played every other game under the sun, but not Dungeons and Dragons. I'm like, oh no, I have to fix this. I failed as a parent. And so I ran out, and except D&D wasn't D&D anymore because it was 4th edition, which I think would be a good video game, but which is kind of a pain to play through. So I went out and got Pathfinder, and then I started running the kid through the Caves of Chaos, because that's where you start D&D, is the Caves of Chaos. There's no wiggle room on that. You understand. But I decided to set it in a fantasy world zombie apocalypse. So the Keep on the Borderlands is like the last human outpost, and in order to be admitted in, you have to be able to contribute something to society. So they had to join the Expeditionary Force, and their force got sent off to the Caves of Chaos on a diplomatic mission to the Greenskins to try and make an alliance against the undead. So the Caves of Chaos as a diplomatic mission, that is fun.
Hold on, I'm having an emotional moment picturing Jim Butcher as my DM.
Man, I click things every week, I torture characters, you'd hate it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I was wondering about you, Margaret, Dresden's daughter, Margaret. Would she be a whiz-pie or a vampizzard?
A whiz-pie or a vampizzard? She's coming up on being a teenage girl before too much longer, and that may be monstrous enough, I don't know. I don't have experience with them of my own, because I just had the one, and he was a boy, and he got more reasonable as he got older. I'm told that's not how it works with girls, I don't know. But Maggie's cool. She really has all kinds of mental issues, and I'm actually going to be writing a young adult series starring Maggie Dresden, and it's going to be my take on Hogwarts. There's going to be young adult books, so they're shorter, and I think I can actually get them into the writing schedule once I'm going again. So that'll be a lot of fun. She's off to St. Mark's Academy of the Gifted and Talented, which would be cool if it was St. Mark's Academy of the Resourceful and Talented, because then it would be smart. But as it is, it's just smacked. But she's going to go off to school, and she really has problems relating to people, because she's been through a lot of trauma, and that's stuff you can't go through without it affecting your life. And so she really does need Mouse as the service dog, because she's got the fear of the open spaces. She's got personal anxiety. She's got PTSD. She has issues, except when everything's on fire, at which point she's completely normal, because she's also Harry Dresden's daughter. But she's off to school, and it's where all the supernatural folks send their kids to school, and there's a rule: we let the kids sort their own problems out. But what they don't know is that there's this pantheon of monsters and creatures that only kids can see and interact with, and that when you grow up, you can't remember anymore. And so she's going to have her own issues to deal with that her dad can't possibly help her with. So.
Thank you.
Right here, please.
What is the one thing that you geek out about, have a fandom, that would surprise the readers most?
Frasier. We're not. This is a problem in my early development. I watched Frasier when I was probably, I think, 9 years old, and I thought that was what cool people did. So for like 2 years, I had a side part, and I thought I liked Sherry. And so I think that really, created what you see now, unfortunately. But I'd say definitely because I used to, that'd be the one thing that would soothe me whenever I was having a stressful day. I'd watch Frasier, and it was just this it was a friend, And I think that's the fun thing about when you find television shows or books is you can find a friend. Or a group of friends that you can go revisit. So I'd geek out about Frasier, and if I met Kelsey Grammer, I would probably just, I don't know what would happen.
I don't think there's anything that would surprise anyone. I'm really kind of a boring person in real life. Yeah, my fandoms are nerd fandoms, and my hobbies are nerd hobbies, and I don't think there's anything that would shock anybody, so. Perfect.
And right here before I go to another side.
Your Red Rising series, do you have any intention of trying to turn that into a film series?
Yes, but then Hollywood moves in mysterious ways. You can tell, yeah. The intention, and then the optioning, and then the writing of scripts and the development process itself is rarely even understood by Hollywood executives, and so it requires a lot of moving parts. It requires a lot of people communicating, which is the biggest hang-up, I think. But yes, so it was optioned by Universal for film 2 years ago, and so it's in the development process now. So there have been three different scripts written. Mark Forster was set to direct at one point, so right now it's in the works.
And the way Hollywood works is, nothing happens, nothing happens, nothing happens, nothing happens. Everything happens at once. Which is why dealing with people in Hollywood is so difficult, and why a lot of people who don't work in Hollywood generally find them to be kind of brusque and rude, is because they live in the everything happens at once moment. That's where they are all the time.
Yeah, most Hollywood emails are probably 5 words.
Yeah.
Not even kidding, with no punctuation, just 5 words, and that's it. That's all they need to say. And you think it's brusque, but then you realize that's just how they talk to each other.
Yeah, it's brusque and terse, and that's all they have time for. So.
So our delicate feelings, but it's interesting because even like look at Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was optioned in 2005, and it wasn't 5 years later until they finally got a pilot. Then they had to reshoot the entire pilot because they didn't test well. And so it goes through all these processes, even with a huge success. I mean, HBO had this moment where the executives were sitting down and they had to decide whether or not they were going to put more money into reshooting the pilot, and they doubled down on their decision. And then you have Game of Thrones.
There's a Game of Thrones on a pilot?
Oh yeah, there's a whole. There's different Caitlin Stark. There's half the characters are different.
Oh,
and it's out there, and it's supposedly just dreadful.
I must see this.
It's like that and the Star Wars Christmas special.
I need it, and I need to put it on the shelf next to my unaired pilot of Buffy.
That's good.
Let's go right here. Yes, ma'am.
Is it when it is optioned to kind of let go of your baby and let it be adapted?
If you have no contractual power whatsoever, it's surprisingly easy.
You may not like it, but it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It depends on how involved you are. How involved were you in the series?
No contractual power whatsoever. But as it turned out, the guy who was producing it, I got in contact with him, and it was Robert Wolf who did a bunch of DS9, like the whole Dominion story arc of DS9, and had also done the first couple seasons of Andromeda, when it was a really good show. And so I got in contact with him, and I was like, hey, when you were writing Andromeda, the Dominion's the Roman Empire, right? I mean, because you've got your legionnaires, you got your Roman citizens who are the shapeshifters, you got kind of their Greek advisors, the Horda, who were standing around talking to him. And he's like, yes, nobody got that. That's amazing. Have you ever played D&D in the Roman Empire? I'm like, yes, I run one of those games. And we sat down and geeked out together, and that was the only way I had any influence on the show at all.
Yeah, the funny thing is, a lot of times the most influence you'll have is by befriending someone, by finding a common vein of interest. And it's a very strange thing, because I think authors are inherently tyrants. because we create a world and it's our sandbox, and don't play with the sand in my sandbox.
Yeah.
Until you pay me.
Yeah, it's really hard. When I started doing the graphic novels, you know, they came to me at one point after I'd written the first script, and they're like, Jim, you can't have the characters talk this much. I'm like, why not? They're like, because if you do, there's no room for pictures. And then it's not a graphic novel, it's a novel. Oh, I suppose you have a point.
Sadly, that's the first note I got when I did the graphic novel too.
Oh, there you go.
Like I had like 7 people talking in one panel, and they're like, this is impossible for anyone to digest.
Yeah.
And there's no room for the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, right back here in the blue, please.
All right, what's your favorite obscure mythological creature?
If it's mythological, it's almost not obscure. I mean, by definition, the mythology that has survived is probably the most awesome mythology of for example, the Greek mythology.
You got the
because
highlights.
it's been around for so long, it must be good because it's sustained itself for thousands of years. You know, nobody hears about the Greek monster that eats socks.
Called Tethadeucides, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Tethysocles. Oh, the legend of Tethysocles. Again, Sophocles' best work. Which one's probably? I've always found the Minotaur to be very fascinating, even though it's not particularly rare or obscure, mostly because of the perversion of man that it is and what it represents. And then I think it's kind of strange thinking of a bull eating a human, and I'm wondering how that happened.
Okay, for obscure, but I'll go with obscure for this one. And the obscure one that I like is the Draugr of Norse mythology. And the Draugr is a bloated corpse that has animated itself and is furiously hungry and comes out of its grave bigger and stronger than anything else, and breaks into your house in the middle of the night and eats you. It's sort of the zombie meets Grendel.
And let's go ahead right here, and then I'll get you.
So in Skin Game, I believe it was, I found myself laughing out loud every single time Harry said or shouted parkour. Even when I was audiobooking, it was, anyway, that was fantastic. So I was just wondering, did you go on like a YouTube binge watching parkour videos?
No, that was an in-joke between me and my kid and my nephews from our days of Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. Because, okay, when we first started playing Battlefield 3, Battlefield 2 was a fun game. And I was one of the top 50 snipers in the world for about a year on that game. But
Two people could jump.
yeah. But all you could do was just jump and then dolphin dive. And so when 3 came out, they added animations in so that when you were running and you got to an obstacle and you hit the jump button, you didn't just jump over it. Your character puts his hands down and parkours over it. And so we thought that was impressive when we were playing. So when we'd be playing together, we started saying it out loud every time we did it. So the chat would be going like, "Yeah, we've got to get to the top of this building so that we can get a laser designator pointed at their airfield parkour." And after that, we're going to have to take out that sniper parkour over on the hill. And so as that went on, it's like, okay, yeah. And at some point, somebody pointed out, I don't think you should say parkour while you're doing parkour. Parkour, shut up, what are you talking about? So that's where that came from.
Yeah, right back here in the back. Yes, ma'am. Yes, please.
Oh, me? Oh, sorry.
No, right there in the back.
No, not you.
It's on my DVR in Independence, and I'm waiting to watch it.
I mean, it's starkly different than what I felt like I was seeing when I was reading. Yet I really, really do love Brian Fuller's adaptation because he's just very strange, and I think his mind is just as bizarre as Gaiman's in a very different way. And so it's fun to get to see things through his lens. So it's not at all what I would have seen. I would have seen a lot more Americana, and I wouldn't have seen the vermilion, the really bright hues that they have when they do the opening credits. But as it is, I think it's startlingly good. I mean, it's so fun. Have you guys been watching it?
Yeah.
I think it's awesome.
Yes, the one that I said, not you.
Well, mine is kind of just a nerdy question. Do you have any of those guilty pleasure books or series that you like read as a kid and now like as an adult you're like still love it but you can't read it again because you know it's so horrible?
No, I read only quality works of literature. Yeah, The Indian in the Cupboard. No, the sequel, The Night in the Cupboard. It's awesome and they fight a rat king. Completely realistic, grounded, medieval combat against rats.
I will still go back occasionally and read Remo Williams' books, The Destroyer, which are the most horrible things ever, and I think they're about 45,000 words long, so you can read them in about an hour, and they're fun. Yeah.
Some of those Forgotten Realms books are also really fun to go back and read.
Oh yeah,
Those are awesome.
Yeah.
Like Drew Karpyshyn did a Baldur's Gate 2 book that I actually love. Yeah, I know.
I got him to sign it.
Somehow I still have mine. I don't. It's like you can't lose it.
I know.
It keeps finding me.
Did you ever read the Aliens books, the novelizations that they wrote based on the Dark Horse graphic novels?
No.
The ones that ignore Aliens 3 and take up with Ripley and Hicks and Newt on their way back.
New guilty pleasure.
Yeah. They're terrible, but they're fun.
I love the AVP, Aliens vs. Predator game. Did you ever play that one?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's awesome getting to play as the alien crawling up the wall. It's fantastic.
Yeah, as long as you've taken your Dramamine before you get started. Because it's this fisheye camera and there's no gravity because you can stick to the walls and be anywhere you want. I just get woozy about 5 minutes, like, screw this, I'm playing Marie, give me a smart gun.
I was 12, so it wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, please.
Most recent, really embarrassing moment in your life?
Bradford Blair, can you respond to that, please?
This is bad. I'm in a restaurant, I'm in a diner in Los Angeles, and I'm reading a book, have my headphones in. Someone comes up to me, and they hand me a napkin, and I'm saying, oh, I'm sure I'll love to sign it. So I sign the napkin, and then they say, no, you have ketchup on your shirt. I went straight home. You call that day a wash, you know?
I don't know, man. In order to be embarrassed, you've got to have dignity, and I'm not sure I have much of that. I can't think of anything offhand. Let me think about it, and it'll probably pop out later in the panel.
You need to close out.
Yeah. There we go. Yes, sir, please.
Favorite story within the video game?
Baldur's Gate 2 is hard to beat. I mean, that Irenicus' folly to try to become immortal is fantastic. I think BioShock is also pretty good, but I mean, I feel like I read Baldur's Gate 2. I replayed that game probably 15 times, enough for my dad to take my computer away. And then I found it. And that one's always kind of stuck with me as kind of the model for making a good game story. Morrowind's also great. Yeah.
I would like to say something deep and cool, but I'm one of the people that believes that what you really think is cool is what you spend your time with. And going over my Steam profile recently while trying to play with my youngest nephew, getting set up playing with my youngest nephew so we can have some things to do even though I'm in Denver, I looked at my profile and it told me that I played 2,500 hours of Fallout 4. It must be Fallout 4. Yeah, right here,
I'm not even mad.
What inspired you for the big and deadbeat when he reanimates Sue the T-Rex?
I've been up late writing book 5 or 6, and I know actually sooner than that. It was when I was working on 4, and saw this special on the History Channel back when they had history on it. And it was a special.
Vikings isn't accurate.
I think Vikings is all right, but I mean they were actually being educational, which no fun, no profit. But, and there was a special on the Field Museum, and about 45 minutes of it was on Sue at the Field Museum. And it's like, that's the real skeleton? Oh, I've got to use that. And then it was just a matter of waiting 4 years until I could actually put it into a book.
Yeah, I think one of the fun things is finding a kernel in anything you're watching. You basically have Steve, you filter out all the stuff you don't like, and then you take the things you like, and then you'll use it 6 years later, 7 years later. And I just have notebooks full of ideas that I've been watching. You know, late at night you're watching something, and you're like, oh, I can repurpose this, or as an emotional twist, or something like that, or just a scene. Like one of my favorite things that I don't know how I'm ever going to use it in the Red Rising world is the dancing scene from Ex Machina. You know, it's like, but I don't think it really fits with Darrow or something. We can see. We can see.
Over here.
Yes, please.
No.
Wait, do you know her?
That's my fiance.
So I just want to ask, if you're writing like a Medusa into a story, and the Medusa's snake hair attacks somebody, does that count as like 1 bite or like 12 or 20?
Your Medusa does not get 20 attacks around.
Airing your dirty laundry here? I thought this was a safe space.
You are a power gaming weasel. God, that's hot.
Yes, sir. Do you ever read fan fiction of your worlds? And if so, what do you think of it?
Next question, please. I do not know what you are talking about, sir. No fan fiction of my world exists, to my knowledge.
What is this fan? Fiction?
Fiction, yeah. If it did exist, you see, I would have to contact my publisher, whose lawyers would then swoop down upon the people to defend my copyright. So in order so that I could protect my copyright and nobody else could write these books. Which would be extremely foolish, because the sort of people who would, in theory, create fan fiction would be the most rabid fans and the most proselytizing fans, who I would wish to encourage and otherwise say, you were doing great, keep going. Therefore, I do not know of any fan fiction of the Dresden Files. Theoretically, if there was some fan fiction, some of it would disturb me greatly.
You know, late at night. You're alone. You poured yourself a whiskey, so you might as well stay out. The dark corners of the internet need to be plumbed. Mostly, for some reason, the fanfiction which I've read has almost entirely been erotic. I'm not sure if it's my mindset and I find what I want to find, or if it's just, you know, the internet trying to tell me something. He's laughing because he knows when the urge strikes.
I got time for a couple more. Let's go right here. Yes, ma'am.
My question was, you talked about writing short stories. How do you know the difference between when something you write is meant to be a short story and stop, or when you should pull out more and make it a full novel?
They all want to be novels for me. Short stories are a pain, they're hard. You have to do everything you have to accomplish everything in a short story that you accomplish in a novel if you're going to tell a good story, except you've got to do it in like that much space. It's like trying to have a knife fight in a phone booth. Oh my God, I hate short stories so much, but I hate telling people no even more. So people keep asking me to be in their anthology, and I'm like, yeah, sure, it's a short story. And then I find myself, you know, slamming my head into the wall to finish the short story.
Yeah, you commit, and it's very difficult to repurpose a story a lot of times, because it's hard to use the same muscle to understand what should not be in the story, because you're trying to include too much, and then all of a sudden you have a 20,000 word, 30,000 word short story, and you've created a novella, and no one's paying you for a novella. And I think that the difficulty is deciding how to best boil down the essential elements and show a snapshot, as opposed to showing, you know, a whole world, which is what we're used to showing. Because all I want to do is expound on things that I open up in a short story. So usually I try to stay away from them because I know I'll end up beating my head against the wall.
Because mine are usually short stories that I'm trying to figure out how to grow into novels or whether or not I should.
Oh, that's much easier.
Yeah.
Making something that's small bigger is much easier than whittling something down big into something small.
As I see it, it's almost all about your world. It's like, so you're showing a little snapshot of your world in the short story. What else exists there? You know, what else can they explore? And what does this open up for them? Either the short story, is this the beginning or is this the second act? And a lot of times, you know, FX, for instance, they won't buy something as a TV show unless the first episode begins in the second act of basically a play. So they want everything to begin in the second act. And so so sometimes you can look at your short story as that. You're already beginning, you know, imagine to be in the middle of your story.
Yeah, for me, I know when it's a short story when there's just nothing particularly complicating it. So I think to myself, you know what, I need Harry Dresden and Bigfoot. And it's like, okay, well, that's a great concept, but you can't novel that. That's just not novel. But you know, it might make a good short story because there just isn't enough. There's not enough complicated stuff involved in it.
But late at night, you can have your Dresden and Bigfoot.
I've got one more, and I'm gonna go with the hat and the paint, please.
I'm glad you asked.
If I could have my own Fury, at this point it would be a Bichon Frise. I miss my dog. So yeah, it'd be a little Earth Bichon Frise, and it'd be like Bichon Frise sized, but because it's an Earth Fury, it would be like super strong and could grab cars and shake them around. Because that would be hilarious. Yeah, exactly. When he jumps in the car's like, like all the way over to one side. That'd be super dense Bichon. That'd be awesome.
Can you tell a story from saving you from a bear?
If you want, I can tell the story of the Bichon saving my kid from a bear. Yeah.
Then we should close out that way.
Hey, anytime you got a bear,
yeah,
I'm
okay. So we're living in Pennsylvania, in the mountains in Pennsylvania, and it's South of State College. It's this long, State College, represent. And we're living in this 26-mile long valley that's all, there's just kind of like this little aborted beginning of a housing development there. There's 3 houses, and then everybody else in the valley is an Amish farmer. Yeah. Which is awesome. They're great neighbors unless you need to borrow a cup of bandwidth. And when we moved there, we moved out. We uprooted the kid and moved him. He was about 9 at this time, and we uprooted the kid, and moved him away from everything he'd ever known and all his friends. But we said, but in return, you get a dog, and he was like, I win. So we wound up getting this Bichon Frise puppy, who we named Frostbite Doomreaver McBain Butcher.
How to get along with dogs at other dog park.
This dog was convinced he was a Rottweiler. He never took to other dogs. He was always the kind of dog that demanded respect from everyone. And with other dogs, he generally got it, you know. So I still remember when he was old and my son came home with his dog, and his dog was half Newfoundland and half Husky, and it was huge. And my dog would jump up on the couch so that he could stare him right in the eyes. And he got his bluff in early, so that dog, the big dog, had been taught that he had to go to school, so he'd been taught that when he was in trouble he had to sit down. So every time my dog did that, he would like sit down, like, I'm sorry. But anyway, so we got my kid this dog. And one night, I wake up in the middle of the night, and this dog has managed to get down from the kid's bed, jump over the baby gate, climb up the stairs. He's never done any of these things before. And he's at the side of my bed going, carrying on. And I'm like, oh, what is wrong with you, dog? It's 3 in the morning. I just stopped riding half an hour ago. Okay, come on, let's put you back in bed. And I pick him up and I take him back downstairs. And I find the kid, and he's laying in the bed just shuddering. And I take his temperature, and he's got 101 fever. And the dog had realized that he kicked all his covers off, and he was just freezing. The dog had realized that something was wrong, and he'd come and get me. And I'm like, good dog. If you continue in Miss Fashion, there is a place for you in this familia. So I take care of the kid, I put the dog back with him, he curls up by the kid's feet and goes back to sleep. I'm like, this is what I had in mind when I got a dog. Excellent, well done. And so I go back to bed. A couple weeks later, same thing happens. I'm like, what's wrong? Did Timmy fall down the well again last night? Let's go check on him. So I go downstairs and the kid's fine. And the way the house was set up, the first floor was kind of this long first floor, like this. And the kids' room was the door to the kids' room was right here, and then the main door to the kitchen from the backyard was right here. This is the door we used all the time, straight across from it, big glass door, and then our pantry was right here. And the dog runs out to between the kid's door and the glass door and continues making noise at me as I come out of the room. And then he runs about 10 feet down the first floor and stops. And then he starts making noise again, and just frantically. And I walk over to him like, what's wrong? Are you hurt? And as soon as I get over to him, he goes completely quiet. Then he runs another 10 feet and freaks out until I catch up with him. And he goes completely quiet. And then he goes up and down the first floor of the house like this twice, and then he curls up in a circle on the floor in front of the kid's door and goes to sleep. And I'm like, all right, dog, you're insane. I put him back in the bed, I go up to sleep, I don't think much of it until the next morning. I get up, it's late February, and there was a fresh snowfall. So I wake up, and the kid's he's like a 9-year-old monkey, he's not very big. And so I'm gonna break trail out to the bus stop for him, because the snow piles up in the mountains of Pennsylvania. And I open the door to go out the back, and there is, on the back steps, up to that glass door that's 8 feet away from my kid, where my kid is sleeping, there's a bare paw prints on those steps as big as this, and slobber marks on the door. And I go outside and I look, and the bear tracks go all the way around the house twice. And I realized that what happened was the dog had sensed the bear out there, and then the dog had made me keep pace with the bear as the bear circled the house, so that the bear would know I knew it was out there. I'm like, okay, dog, you're in.
All right, guys, I want to do a little housekeeping here, just so you know. There'll be signings all weekend at the Del Rey booth, 1697. I believe they're coming out galley copies of Red Rising. If you haven't started Pearson's series, what are you doing with your life?
That sounds great. I'll take one.
And for all things Jim Butcher, go see our friends at Bard's Tower. They're in booth 1367. They have all kind of Jim's books, from all the Dresden Files to the Aeronauts Windlass. Anything you'd want Butcher, that's our friends at Bard's Tower. Let's hear it again. Thank you.